One thing that's really important to look for along your route when you're pre-planning your route from your primary bug-in location to your alternate bug-in location, you know, that's one of the things you need to identify is natural shelters and opportunity shelters. This is a great example of a natural shelter, and the reason that I like these is because my goal is to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. I don't want to spend a lot of time setting up a shelter, taking down a shelter, repacking. I want to do a minimum amount of that. So my goal is to make as much distance as I can, but when I do have to rest, be able to get into a shelter location, protect me from the elements a little bit, offer me some protection, and be able to get in and out quickly and continue to move. Because my goal is to get from point A to point B, not be comfortable along the way. Natural shelters include things like rock outcroppings like we have here. It could be large trees that have fallen over that you can kind of tuck up into. There are a number, but you should, during your planning phase, you should look at your routes, do a route reconnaissance, you know, to kind of see what resources you have available along those routes, and then, you know, take advantage of those. Make a mental note of those, mark them on your map with just a little point, put them in your GPS, whatever you want to do. And use these along your route, incorporate it into your overall plan. This particular one is a rock outcropping. I've got plenty of space to crawl back inside here to give me some protection from the elements. I'm reasonably hidden from observation. I'm still in a secluded area. So this is a really good example of a natural shelter. One thing that I will say is if you're using rock outcroppings, you want to be careful about drastic temperature changes, right? Over time, gradual temperature changes that happen, you know, in the environment are not such a big deal, but they do eventually crack and things fall off of them. But as far as like staying in it for one night, I don't particularly worry about it because, you know, that whatever's happened has been happening gradually. So I'll just look for things that are loose that might fall on me. And if those are there, I'll get rid of those. This is still in there pretty good, and it's not particularly big, so I'm not worried about it. But those are the things I'm thinking about. And then what I don't want to do is change the temperature in here drastically. I don't want to start a fire here. And of course, my kind of philosophy in shelter system does not involve, you know, having a fire right next to my shelter. So that's not really something that I would do. But if it's in your plan, you need to think about, you know, rapidly heating these rocks up and causing it to crack. You know, that's a dangerous situation when you're using natural shelters like this. But in my opinion, you should do your fire away from your shelter location so that if it draws any attention, the attention is not drawn to you. All right, it's drawn to that location. You do what you have to do, put it out, and then put your shelter location somewhere else, preferably overlooking where you just came from or overlooking your trail to give you a little more security. But if I'm using a natural shelter like this, rather than have to set up an elaborate tarp shelter or poncho shelter and then take it down, I can use what's referred to as the Ranger burrito. And basically my poncho and poncho liner, I just tie those together. And what that does is give me some insulating material. And of course on the bottom, I've got insulating material and kind of a vapor barrier against the ground. Particularly cold weather, I would probably take my bivy cover and I would put some insulation in that to make sort of a mattress to lay on. But again, this is quick, down and dirty, just trying to get some rest so that I can continue on in the morning. So for the Ranger burrito, I've tied those together, kind of folded it in half, and then all I have to do is crawl inside there and then pull the top half over me. I can use my bag for my head. And I've spent a lot of nights comfortably sleeping this way in the forest, in the wild. It's actually not that bad. Your goal is not to be comfortable. Your goal is to get from point A to point B as quickly as you possibly can. So this is a great way to do it. Ranger burrito and a natural shelter. You're living pretty good.